Ready? All right, this being the appointed time and place and seeing quorum present, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you'd all please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Amy, would you please take the roll?
Lanier.
Here.
Jennifer Baptist.
Here.
Tina Johnson. Here. Steve Caulfield.
Here.
Katie Najarian. Here. David Schrader. David Smith.
Here.
Paul Van Langenberg.
Here.
Doug Will.
All right, looking at the agenda, do we have any changes we need to make?
We do not.
All right. Then this brings us to public input. This is one of two times the agenda which members of the public may address the board. If you're attending virtually, please use the raise your hand feature and you will be recognized. Those in person, just raise your hand. Anyone who'd like to be recognized at this time? Okay. There will be a second opportunity at the end of the meeting. And we will move right into announcements and recognition / communication. And I know we have our high school student board representative, so step on up, sir.
Hello, everyone. My name is Owen Harris. I just want to introduce myself a little bit. I'm a senior here at Watertown High School and on the board for Student Council. And I just want to give a little update for what we've got going on this year. We just wrapped up in February. The third week in February was our Do Be Nice week. And for that, we weren't able to have an assembly yet this year, but we want to make as much of the week as we could and make it as fun and interesting for everybody as we could. So we put together a few small gifts for our custodial and kitchen staff to thank them for all that they do throughout the year. And then our two individuals that we wanted to thank this year were Mrs. Geske and Mrs. Klinger. And for all the hard work that they do the whole year round. So we actually put together a video. We got as many students involved as we could with that. And just kind of ask students to say a few nice words about those individuals. And we put that together in a video and then showed that on the Wednesday of that week during homeroom. So whole school could see it. And that was the first time that Mrs. Geske and Mrs. Klinger could see it too. So that was really exciting and really special that we got to do that this year. This week is Spring Fever Reliever Week. So right before spring break, we have dress up days. Today was Monochrome Monday, so everybody was sporting the same color for their whole outfit. Tomorrow is Adam Sandler Day, so everybody's supposed to dress up as their favorite Adam Sandler character from whichever movie they choose. Wednesday is Identity Swap Day, so you're supposed to pick a friend or someone that you want to switch identities with and kind of dress as them for the day, kind of something fun. And then Thursday is Thrifted Thursday, so your best thrifted outfit from either old clothes or stores that you clothes you picked up at a thrift store. And then we go to school on Friday, so that's kind of just to get kids a little keep them going throughout the week as the final week right before spring break. So that's what we're doing this week. And then plans for the first week in May is our Teacher Appreciation Week. And for that week, we're planning to do some small gifts for all the staff members here at the high school to show our appreciation. Then also our Golden Goslings Award ceremony that we do every year. We ask that the teachers come dress nice, they can bring their families. We have some food usually, and then we give out these little small golden Gosling trophies that we kind of give titles for and hand them out to the teachers just to show our appreciation for all that they do throughout the year. But yeah, that's pretty much our plans. It's looking what it's like for the rest of the year. So yes, thank you.
Oh, and what were you
Thank you.
doing last weekend?
Last weekend, I was in the musical here at the high school. So
And did an extraordinary job,
Thank
as did that whole team. So congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Kudos to you on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Our next item up is the board candidate introductions. Again, we have 5 candidates on the ballot: Mike Higgins, Craig Workman, Paul Van Langenberg, David Schrader, and Lori Holland. Lori Holland and David Schrader were not able to be here this evening, but I don't get to see Mike. I don't see him online. So Paul and Craig drew straws before the meeting, and Paul got short straw. He goes first.
Okay, that's all right, I'll just stay here. Thanks for giving me a chance to address the board tonight. Just a little quick thing about me, been in the district for 19 years, worked with my wife Deb for all those years. Stepson Brandon, graduated from University of Wisconsin Whitewater in education, and had a career of 35 plus years as an educator. So, anyway, when I first ran 6 years ago, I ran purely on an interest that I had in education and the desire to serve. So with that, I mean, I didn't have any specific platform or any personal agenda that I wanted to follow. It was just simply serving and having a love for education. However, there were 3 things that I wanted to do as a board member. And that was number 1, I wanted to be able to serve the district as an advocate for education, kind of education that would give every student the opportunity to reach their best potential. Secondly, I wanted to be able to serve the community by being able to listen, ask questions, and make decisions that would be based on what would be in the best interest of the school district. Thirdly, be able to support and carry out oversight responsibilities for all the school related operations. During the course of that 6 years, served as CC2 representative a few years. I've been a participant in various district-wide committees, served on the various school board level committees. Currently board clerk, currently chairperson for the educational services as well. I think I bring a unique perspective to the board. So with that, if I'm fortunate to be reelected, I look forward to serving.
Thank you. Craig Wortman.
Hello. So I am Craig Wortman. I'm a husband, a father, and a caring community member. My wife Jessica is a 7th grade ELA teacher at Riverside Middle School and is completing her 17th year of teaching. So I really think that Watertown is on the brink of some exciting changes. I think we're on the brink of quite a bit of growth. And the Watertown Unified School District definitely can play a part in kickstarting some of that growth, and I'm excited about that. Some of that growth can actually ease some financial concerns, which would be great. I think we're within a grasp of achieving a significantly exceeding expectations when it comes to the state report card, but it's going to be like moving a freight train because we do have some challenges. But once the freight train begins to roll, trains can pick up momentum. Regardless of the outcomes of this election, I'm going to be here to be your advocate. Parents, I'm your advocate. I want to be there when your kids accomplish success. Teachers, I'm your advocate. Whether you push a broom, work in a classroom, drive a bus, or maintain the facilities, I am proud of your contribution and respect your hard work. I will support a district culture that doesn't marginalize you or our stakeholders. Please, I welcome your feedback. I support full transparency. Parents, staff, and community members deserve the rationale behind the decisions being made right here. Recordings of committee meetings help the board to address considerations that have been overlooked before a critical vote. Sometimes we need to admit what didn't work so that we can find what does. I need to know how you feel. Speak up. It's hard to fix something if you aren't told what's broken. I expect that you won't be a stranger. Please consider voting for Craig Wortman, April 5th. Thank you for the opportunity.
Joined in, so we will move on to our next item, which is the Board of Canvassers selection and meeting. Again, this is the confirmation of the ballots once they have been cast. And that meeting will take place on Monday, the 11th of April at 4 p.m. I will attend. I need two others to join me. Two of the volunteers who are not on the ballot.
I can join you, Tony.
Jennifer, thank you. Tina or Dave Smith. Otherwise, I'll pick on Doug when it gets back. The 11th, you said it's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock? All right, so Tina. Thank you very much.
That's what you get for looking at your schedule first.
Should
Should I take it longer? I wasn't watching.
Yeah, you lost out there.
If you absolutely can't, I appear to.
Okay.
All right, so again, that will be Monday, April the 11th at 4 p.m. at the board office. Is that done? Yeah. Thank you. All right, WASB member recognitions.
We have two of them this evening. Paul Vanden Langenberg is Award Level 2, Region 12, Watertown Association, or Wisconsin Association of School Boards. And we also have Jennifer Bakke receiving her Award Level 3. So congratulations to both of you. Thanks for your participation in a variety of WASB-related activities.
What
Again,
makes
there's
you
a
a
lot
higher
of time
level?
represented. in
Yes, there is.
What makes you a higher level?
that. Given a lot of time.
Time?
There's not enough time to tell.
It is
Basically,
time and
time.
it's attendance at various WASB conferences and conventions and all of those things that they have participated in over the years. Dave, we can get you yours as well. I'm very sure of it.
You're on your way, Dave.
And then our last item of communications, Steve had asked for an opportunity to address the board. This is his final meeting. After 9 years, so I will hand the floor over to Steve.
Thank you, Tony, for accepting my request to address the board, administration, and the community at large. That actually took a lot of courage on your part. And I appreciate the trust you have in me that I won't go too far off the rails. I want you to know that my thoughts here this evening are my own and of what I have witnessed and what I've researched over since 2013. My election to the school board in 2013 gave me the dual purpose of serving my community and enabling me to understand how public education works and have some input as to the direction our society and culture were being impacted by our educational process. We were fresh off of the enactment of Act 10 and the full implementation of Common Core. Both were very controversial in the arena of education. With Common Core in place, the academic bureaucracy had finally put their stamp of authority on the curriculum, goals, standardized testing instituted across America. The parents and school boards had little to no input in the implementation of Common Core. In fact, many aspects of Common Core were quite unpopular with parents in general, seemingly less so with the school boards. This was the culmination of many years of attempting to install the concepts of outcome-based education, which wasn't successful initially. Through the years, OBE morphed into other buzz phrases such as mastery learning, goals 2000, race to the top, no child left behind. Unfortunately, education in America has been dominated by an established academic bureaucracy steeped in Marxist philosophy that had also found support from many past presidential administrations utilizing federal bureaucratic authority and our tax dollars. It was my understanding then, as it is even more so now, the election of private citizens to the school board can play a decisive role in the educational process by checking the ideologue implementation of postmodern thought, which has been aided by an uninformed or apathetic public and elected board members through the last couple generations. Presently, some parental activists and a few board members are intervening, asking the tough questions of academic relevance, considering the years of declining performance of our youth in literacy, math, and the plateauing of student achievements in other foundational skills. All while our academic leadership continually preaches quality education for all by institutionalizing Marxist concepts of equity, social justice, inclusivity, cultural responsiveness, racial inequity, intersectionality, social emotional learning, microaggressions, and the dysphoria of gender fluidity, etc. And this is not an exhaustive list. It is seemingly endless, and its purpose is that all this wordplay is meant to divide and confuse the populace along social, political, economic, racial, cultural, sexual, religious lines, and subverting the paramount importance of the nuclear family and parental authority. But when the nomenclature and educational process is questioned, it is met with denial and/or vilification by the powers that be. Those kind of responses indicate we are dealing with indoctrination and not education. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17 says, "The first one to plead his case seems right, until his neighbor comes and examines him." We should be emphasizing one blood, one race, the human race, openly recognizing our triumphs and our failures, not erasing history or living in shame because of human error, but by embracing our humanity, our potential as citizens, and a common goal of security and achievement through cooperation and positivity, passionately protecting our guaranteed liberties and freedoms granted to us by God, which is enshrined in our Bill of Rights and Constitution. It's been my observation over the years, the slow march of Marxism in all facets of the United States of America. In our political system, with the rise of statism, our corporations led by woke elite globalists, cultural activists in the mold of Italian communist Antonio Gramsci, mainstreamed by community agitators in the vein of Saul Alinsky, have established a stronghold in virtually all our colleges and universities. Media and our tech companies practice blatant censorship and collusion in one form or another, denigrating those who hold dear the truths of traditional family Judeo-Christian values that uphold righteousness and equal justice under the law and love of country as virtuous ideals to strive for. The embracing of postmodern thought and the inculcation of Marxist ideology is the death knell of an effectual, free, and functional society. I wish that the man dubbed as the father of modern public education, John Dewey, would have championed the ideals of our founding fathers, but instead he was a Fabian socialist. Instead he was a Fabian socialist and signer of the Humanist Manifesto. Along with fellow socialists such as Benjamin Bloom, a pioneer in the educational field, to this day continues to influence and lead in the psychological, social, and cultural development of our children. My point is that I am very sensitive to the direction and velocity our country is embracing the tenets of Marxism, which goes by many names: socialism, communitarianism, progressivism, communism. The 10 tenets of Marxism rebuffs every aspect of our constitutional republic. We only enjoy these benefits and freedoms because they have been protected by God and the blood, sweat, and tears of those who have chosen to serve our country militarily, in law enforcement, emergency services, also supportive citizenry who believe in the overall goodness and value of this unique social experiment for the last 240 years. Which brings me back to where I began. As an elected official, which is what we are, we take an oath to uphold our Constitution. Many people may not understand the seriousness of public oath taking. In our America, that would be invoking a vow to the Creator God as defined in our Bill of Rights, there being no recognized higher authority in law. This oath, if demonstrably broken, is known as perjury, which potentially carries a penalty of 2 to 4 years in prison. If you vow an allegiance to uphold our Constitution, you cannot embrace the ideology of Marx without compromising your oath of office. The two are not compatible. Some may be offended by my bluntness. However, I find myself in good company. My grandfather, Major John Steiner, an educator from the greatest generation, who eventually became the Secretary of Education for the state of New Mexico. John Steiner was one of the architects of the European educational system during the Reparation period post-World War II. He recognized the influence of Marx and postmodernism held by the elite class of post-war Europe, and the important importation of this ideology to America's center of higher learning. John Steiner never stopped warning of the paradigm shift coming to our country and educational system. This all took place during his lifetime in the 40s and 50s until his untimely death in 1953. Only 70 odd years have passed, not even a full lifetime, has it taken to witness this evolution? Or has it been a revolution? In conclusion, I want to exhort the board in particular. There are so many things that can obscure our vision of a truly rigorous education for our youth, because there are so many moving pieces. Don't get caught up in process, policy, stature, and overt acceptance of an official narrative. Independent thought and research is appropriate and sorely needed and should be encouraged. The education of our youth, ideologies promoted and methodologies utilized, determines the course of America and what it will be in the future. I will leave you with 2 quotes. The first is by Vladimir Lenin, and I quote, "Give me 4 years to teach children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." And the second is from Joseph Stalin, and he said, "Education is a weapon whose effects depends on who holds it in his hands and whom it is aimed at." Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to strategic discussion, and our first item up, presentation on literacy adoption at Riverside.
Hi. So we have 2 short slides for you. It's hard to believe that we started this journey a year ago. We're a team, go to the next slide, that's just the introductory slide. But we're a team, spent an entire year researching and studying and visiting and talking to vendors. And now we come to you a year later with a recommendation for an ELA curriculum for RMS. If you go down to the rationale, we believe that Wit and Wisdom as an approach and built on a framework of questioning that's integrated and text-based. Literacy information and fine arts texts are used. The curriculum involves daily reading, writing, speaking, listening, grammar, and vocabulary, and draws on evidence from exceptional texts. The staff, their comments and what we have found through the research is this curriculum is very rigorous and organized. Its standards align. It involves a lot of collaborative learning and avid connections with a very comprehensive professional development plan. The texts are engaging, skills are growing, and it's problem solving with friends. So we, again, had updated Ed Services throughout our journey. We did a full PowerPoint at our last Ed Services meeting, and we're coming tonight to the board with a resolution for a $290,000 purchase that we would begin this spring for implementation in the fall. And then in subsequent years, there's approximately a $21,000 a year licensing fee, if you will, depending on what our current enrollment is each year.
So again, there was a extensive presentation made at the last Ed Services meeting. And that is also attached in the board agenda. Board members, questions or comments? Please, go
I
ahead.
do, and I
Kate.
apologize if this is repetition for all of you since I was not at Ed Services. Of the schools that use Witten Wisdom, were any of them dual language schools?
Some had ELL services, but no, none of them were dual language. And I appreciate that you brought that up because we have worked extensively with our dual language teacher and some of our elementary dual language teachers. And within this $290,000 proposal, there's money set aside for the dual language program to be able to have materials and resources. And some of the books through Witten Wisdom are in Spanish. So the professional development that goes along with our non-dual language students, there's also going to be ongoing professional development for implementation with dual language.
Some of the names I see in the PowerPoint are Patterns of Power, Witten Wisdom, Great Minds for English. How do all three of those work together?
Good question. So Great Minds is the company
Okay.
that has the Witten Wisdom materials. Patterns of Power is a vocabulary program, if you will, that we use at K-5. And the feeling was that if we had students that maybe needed some more instruction on certain pieces of grammar and how to do writing, the teachers would have a common resource in order to teach those skills. So it's actually a, if you will, like a spiral bound book that has lessons in the different areas of grammar and vocabulary. So you don't get additional teacher, or I'm sorry, student resources. It's a resource for the teachers to use when perhaps they use a common formative assessment and they determine that students didn't master one of the skills that they were working.
Are there, with this curriculum, do students actually get to get their hands on books, or are they just short mini stories?
Good question. There are lots of everything that you said. So they use poetry, they use novels, they use excerpts from other pieces of literature. It encompasses every kind of literacy structure that we could use, actually. Very hands-on, very problem-solving with your peers. If you look at the PowerPoint from the Ed Services meeting, we actually surveyed the students and the teachers and got responses to what they liked about it. And some of the students identified that it is rigorous and that it does keep them wanting to learn more.
And where does the 21 yearly cost come from? What is that?
The $21,000 covers, there is online options for students. So we will have the actual textbooks, but they can also access it online. And a lot of the teachers' materials are also available online and student resources that they can access.
So 21,000. Why is it every year? Is it like a subscription?
Yes.
Okay.
And it might not be, we estimate 21, it could be a little less. You know, it just depends. It's a per pupil cost.
Okay, perfect. So as enrollment numbers
Yeah.
change, that number will
Yeah.
change. And districts who use this, have they seen an improvement in their test scores?
Yes, they have. It's a fairly new curriculum. We do have a neighboring district that we're waiting to hear if they're going to embark on purchasing Witten Wisdom, and then we would work with them. We thought that would be a great opportunity for PD. I would tell you from our short pilot that we've had in the schools, the teachers have seen phenomenal results just on writing and some of the reading that they're doing with the students. They've seen growth in this short pilot.
Other board members' questions? Tina?
I know you guys have been working hard on this for a very long time and a lot of people involved with a lot of considerations and everything. So thank you guys for looking at this. I know at Ed Services, we talked about all the different, groups that were represented and, making sure that although advanced learners aren't specifically listed as a group, that the rigor is there. And one thing too, I guess, when we were talking about it in detail, we wanted to make sure that the needs of the students within the same classroom, like it's actually, I appreciate that you guys did a pilot because it's actually applicable. Like a teacher, you know, we have these ideas, and we want to be able to give everybody what they need, but is it real? Because it hasn't always been that case. And so I know you guys have had a chance to pilot that and things like that. And it seems as though from the teacher feedback that, the teacher can actually take the curriculum and implement it and meet the different learning levels. So, and hoping that will carry through for everybody for the full year and all of the different units within that. So.
Yeah, thank you for your support. Tina was involved in parts of our vendors were coming and she participated as she could. The piece that is very exciting for all of the teachers is the core text. The text that we use in these various modules are written at grade level. But then when you have students that are far above grade level or might need some lower level materials, that's all available within. So we may have, 6th graders that are reading at a 10th grade level or 6th graders that are reading at a lower level. And you're right, the resources are there for the teachers to utilize based off similar questioning and similar activities and Socratic seminar. So students could be reading at different levels, but getting the core instruction through that venue.
I'm happy to hear that because one of my concerns was how much work will teachers have to do to differentiate it, but if it's already part of the resources, that's really.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it'll take the company, the vendor that we're working with, it takes 3 to 5 years for an entire curriculum implementation for teachers to feel really comfortable. But the other real positive benefit that the team saw was the professional development. It's a 3-year professional development cycle for administration, for our teachers, for the dual language people. There's things that we will keep revisiting. It's not, okay, we spent a year researching this, here it is, run to town and get it all done. It's going to be ongoing.
Other comments, questions, board members? Paul?
Yeah, when we were at the Ed Service meeting, I think I asked the point of, we also have a lot of time involved in the AVID program. So those strategies will kind of fit in with this.
Very
correct?
much, very much. It's very aligned with the organization piece and Socratic seminars and the way that they orchestrate the whole block of time that will be spent on literacy. It'll fit very nicely.
One other thing. So will the kids that are in like the project learning STEM kind of group at middle school, are they gonna use this as well, or how does that gonna get incorporated in there?
Go ahead if you want.
It's just gonna look a little different, but there are book groups that are gonna be utilized as far as their day-to-day, like prescribed curriculum. It's not going to look in the STEM environment like it would in a
Right.
traditional classroom. But at least semesterly opportunities for the STEM students to kind of work around a book group, which is similar to what the other classrooms are gonna be using, has a connection to it. But it's a little bit of a wonky, here's a curriculum that has like a module 1, day 2, day 3, for the STEM environment, which is more of like a personalized approach. It's just going to look a little bit different. There's going to be an attachment there, but it's just going to be a little different.
I mean, I would say that after hearing Leanne and Jason talk about it at the Ed Service meeting, I was really encouraged. It seems like it's gonna really be a good fit.
Other comments or questions from board members? I want to piggyback on Paul's point on STEM. And I recognize that Riverside STEM is different from our other STEM, but what I know is at elementary, at that STEM and at LEAP, we're implementing the new elementary literacy the same as in any other school. And I would say, I think we need to be very, very careful because my second question. One of our objectives in revisiting our entire curriculum was to look for alignment, K-12. And if we create a scenario where coming out of the middle school, a portion have this and a portion have something significantly different, I think that will create a challenge from an alignment perspective when they reach the high school. So I think we need to be particularly careful. I know, particularly careful about this. I'd like to encourage us to perhaps revisit that point and look for some stronger integration aspects within the STEM Academy.
Hi, everyone. If it's okay, Cassandra, Dr. Shug, it's Leanne Graff talking. If I could speak to that a little bit. I think it's important to recognize that the curriculum that we chose is essential question focused. So the idea behind it is that there's a key driving question behind everything that students are being asked to do. And that driving question helps them think about and process the world around them. And so in all of our environments, in dual language, in STEM, in the general classroom, all of those students are going to be working around those same essential questions on a daily basis. They're going to be working under Socratic seminars in the same way. They're going to be producing the same types of writing. It's just like the day-to-day instruction will look different. And so we sat down with the dual language environment and we sat down with the STEM environment to be able to say, what are the key tenets? What are the key pieces that we can make sure are common across a middle schooler's experience so that when they are leaving Riverside, we can check off that all students have these key speaking and listening skills, these key writing skills, these key critical reading skills. And we looked at how can this curriculum make sure that we are supporting students no matter the environment that they are in, so that if a student decides to leave the dual language program or leave the STEM environment mid-year when they're done with RMS, like wherever they choose to exit or enter, all of those students would be supported in the same way with the same skills. And so we felt really confident that this curriculum gave us that flexibility to be able to allow students to really engage with those essential questions and the content on high levels, low levels, mid levels, kind of meeting everybody where they were at.
I appreciate that. Thank you for providing a little more detail, and I appreciate that you're definitely looking from that angle. I still emphasize the program's based on a certain daily organization, and if you walk too far away from that, it loses its, as in its own terminology, loses its fidelity. I'm just asking us to re-examine that point. The other question I had goes back to the overall integration, and the more in-depth presentation that Ed Services Committee saw included speaking directly to Avid, which is of course where they're going to head up into the high school that is really centered around Avid. But I am curious as to what during the process, it wasn't evident from the presentation, what did we look at to make sure that this program is going to work well and that we're going to set it up to work well with our new program that we've implemented at the elementary level?
With Fountas and Pinnell, is
Yep.
what you're saying, yeah. Well, all of the areas of speaking, listening, grammar, collaborative learning, those all align nicely with the Avid. In Fountas and Pinnell, in the readers workshop at their level, they incorporate all of those same standards. We had some of the literacy coaches involved from the elementary level when we embarked on this journey, and really made sure that we were aligned. And that's why the patterns of power we felt was a really great way to go to keep that consistent K-8. As far as Avid, I mean, there weren't other curriculums that had the components of Avid that we found were in line with what we wanted to do. So that was a big component for us that helped us decide that Wit and Wisdom was one of the curriculums that stood out from all of the others. I don't know if you'd want to add any more about that, Jason or Leanne, but just the whole problem solving and grouping and the way the kids work together, again, aligns with the Avid strategies that we're using 612.
Well, and back to the elementary continuity piece, the instructional coaches did review all of this and they were all in agreement that this was the best match to Fountas and Pinnell. Is it a perfect match? No. However, they really felt strongly that among the curriculums that were available and were well rated, and this one that was also well received by staff, this was the best choice. So they supported that and will be working in terms of making sure that we do have continuity, because absolutely that is the goal, is to create that continuity of programming K-8 and K-12.
So that would help me in terms of understanding implementation plan.
Yep.
You've identified, hey, this one had the best bridgehead.
Yep.
Great. How are we going to build the bridge?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Dave Smith?
So while I can get my mind around and comprehend the 3 to 5 years that you talked about, Aaron, that in the same breath, kids are only at Riverside for 3 years. And we've got this dip in our performance from elementary to Riverside. So that timeframe to me needs to be emphasized as becoming as short as we possibly can make it. To that regard, as we monitor this month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year, what are the KPIs that we're looking at? What's the 1, 2, maybe 3 things at most that we're saying, yep, oh boy.
I think writing is an area that we really have seen improvement with already. We've had some parents indicate that they've seen in this short pilot that they couldn't believe how much more their students were writing when they were at home. I think the reading, the books that we used during the pilot. So what we did is we took one module and we were going to do one novel from each module, and they were so invested in it, they were wanting the second book in that module. So we'll be looking at reading on the STAR test. Do we see increases from fall to winter, winter to spring? Do we see growth in the area of writing? And do we see growth as far as vocabulary and grammar? That's all part of our STAR testing as well. So we just feel with this comprehensive curriculum, there'll be a lot of measures that we'll look at on a regular basis. And if we don't see growth, we will go back to the materials and go back to patterns of power and see what do we need to do more of.
And success at the end of the day is going to look like improved scores on STAR.
Right.
In that ELA percentage of both growth as well as achievement. So those are the 2 areas we know are of concern. So we will be targeting achievement and growth on those STAR test scores. And there will be all of the other pieces that come along, like the summative assessments that students are going to have during their coursework. The achievement that the teachers will be able to see in writing as students continue to move through those programs. But the reason that we began this process is because you need to evaluate your curriculum on a regular basis, but also because we knew that we had put a lot of pieces in place, but hadn't seen the movement in literacy that we needed to see at RMS. And it became evident that the curriculum that we were using wasn't putting the teachers in a position to really move students as was necessary to really impact those scores. So success will look like impacting those scores. And yes, it's 3 to 5 years to get to fidelity, but that doesn't mean we won't see some immediate impact and immediate gains. You know, you have to be prepared for, the teachers are implementing something brand new. And sometimes when you implement something brand new, you have an implementation dip, right? We're doing something new. We're not exactly sure how that's refined. So you might see an initial implementation dip, but as we get better at it, you should see those scores continue to raise over the first, second, and third year. But I wouldn't want us to be discouraged if we experience that initial implementation dip, because that is something you frequently see when you implement anything.
Star score.
So even though
Star scores hitting our strategic plan.
Correct. That's the whole plan, is to impact those STAR scores. Of course, the STAR scores represent much more than a test.
That's how we're measuring it. Is
But
not-
that is the plan.
Paul?
So just kind of getting back to the alignment thought. So the whole idea with the STEM Academy at middle school, I mean, it's a different way of doing things than the traditional. So even though we might align some of the new curriculum in there, it doesn't mean we're going to change that to make that look different. right? Okay, so I just wondered, is there data, have we ever tried or have we ever looked at, when kids transition over to the high school, we know if kids, is there a way that we could tell if the kids that graduate from the STEM Academy have the same readiness or vice versa as the traditional kids that go through the traditional program? Do we know at all if those kids achieve at a better, same, different level when they first get to the high school? Do we know any of that information?
I know it's 6-8. So I know every year the students in the STEM Academy environment grow at a slightly higher tip than the traditional students do at Riverside. Like, if the traditional 6th to 7th grade is one grade level, all right, the traditional STEM 6th to 7th grade is like 1.1 grade level. So as far as like 8th to 9th grade and kind of what that longitudinal data looks like once a student gets to the high school, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be a good data point. I mean,
I'd be interested to kind of know, just to see like, kids that go to the one program versus the other program, how do they perform in freshman English? Or how do they perform in, whatever math or in that type of thing? It'd just be interesting for me.
It's also important that in that comparison, it's an apples to apples in terms of
True.
student populations. And that you're comparing students who entered the 6th grade at relatively equal levels. And then how did they progress through? And then how did they do when they got to 9?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you bring a skewed sample in that's already skewing high and find out that they stayed high, that would tell you.
And I'd also add, I mean, it might, well, I guess we don't know, I guess we have to look at the data, and then are those 8th grade STEM students, are they going to Endeavor, or are they going, with the full
There's a lot of
WHS
variables.
schedule, or are they going to eCampus, and understanding kind of the permutation of the different paths the kids take, but then following those achievement scores of the STEM students as they progress through.
Question.
Thanks.
Other comments or questions?
The board has no more questions. I want to just take a minute to say this has been a very long process.
Yes. A lot of effort. into this.
Lots of effort. Aaron Meyer, Leanne Graff, Jason, all of the stakeholders that were involved in the research study team that has been meeting since May of last year.
And
Brought
in the
that
summer.
proposal to you in May. You supported that. Thank you. Have brought it all the way around a year later. And I just want to say, I am, for one, very grateful for all the work and energy that has gone into that. And I, for two, truly believe that this is going to have an impact on that literacy data at the middle school, which at the end of the day is going to improve the learning of our students overall, their reading and their writing skills, which is the work we do and is critically important. So I'm very enthusiastic about this and very appreciative of all the hard work that went into bringing this to you this evening.
I agree with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this one? Otherwise, we do have a resolution on it later. Okay, next we will have the safe schools update.
Safe Schools update this evening is very, very brief, which is indicative, I think, of the state of affairs we have right now. So, and I can't see, Tyler, do you have it? Okay. Now, Tyler? It's behind me, so I'm
Yeah.
unable to see it. But I'm going to do my best to intuit what's happening behind me and be in coordination with those slides. So what has been going well? We have sustained the dramatic drop in our COVID-19 cases over the past month in our schools and in our community. Last week, as you saw in your board update and the weekly COVID update, we had no cases and we went for actually 11 days with no new cases. We did have one case come in today, but it is just a dramatically different story than we were seeing in January. Our community stays in low transmission according to the CDC and moderate transmission according to DHS. So just much improved. Sustained increase in our attendance rates for students and for staff over the past month as well. And then continuing to see those 80+% substitute fill rates. The past couple of days, we've seen a few more staff absences and needing to be filled. So we'll continue to evaluate that as we move forward. But definitely improvement in both of those items. We are hopeful that we will be able to scale back on some of those safety protocols per our prioritization list, the WUSD safety plan. Those around distancing, symptom checking, temperature taking, those different items. So we'll continue to watch the data and look to hopefully be able to reduce some of those, assuming that data stays low. What has been challenging this year, I've said it, every month, we are, still going to be responding to those COVID-19 cases. We're still experiencing staffing shortages for substitute teachers. We've seen big improvement in that. But our custodial staff, bus drivers, crossing guards, and paraprofessionals continue to be an area where we've been hiring throughout the year and needing to fill some of those areas. And we still are experiencing issues with our supply line shortages, specifically impacting food options and menus across the WUSD. How are we responding and preparing this month? We are continuing the implementation of our online pilot program for tutoring at WHS and RMS, hoping that will be one small tool in our toolbox to help accelerate student learning. Again, that on-site testing has been tremendously helpful to many of our families and staff members. As I shared with you last month, the teachers were tremendously grateful and productive on that February 21st date, and we are looking forward to March 25th as another teacher planning day. And again, staff are grateful, and I know we'll accomplish a great deal on Friday. There are no updates this month to the safety plan. I don't know the last time I said that phrase. So there were no changes that I made. And this is all information you know where our COVID-19 data is. Any questions on the safety update? Katie?
Yeah, at what point do you think you'll be able to report out on how the tutoring is?
Yeah, good question. We have a dashboard that we are looking at very regularly, and we are still, I think we could probably report out, Jason, Josh, May?
I think so. Yep. So at the high school, just the timing of when we started coincided with the end of the second trimester, and then it recycled over to the start of the third trimester. So I know the teachers are rolling that out. So we've had some early tries and early attempts, but then in May we'll have a lot more information and be able to talk about the efficacy.
And then at what point is the COVID clinic like fully staffed and open all day long?
It's open from 9 to 3. We have 2 employees there. Again, they aren't our employees. This is all working through those federal grant dollars. And they alternate. Sometimes they're both there together, but typically we have one or the other there.
Is there any talk about them cutting back their hours or things
We talked about that. Right now, again, they aren't actually our employees, and we work with NOAA Clinical Laboratories. They have not indicated any desire to scale back on their hours, as we just sort of, again, tentatively keep an eye on things and see how much of their time is necessary. So we have not looked at doing that differently right now, and we'd really take the lead from NOAA Labs, who process all those labs and have a pretty good idea of how those tests have been flowed.
Do you anticipate it will be open?
Right now, I anticipate the answer is no. We haven't gotten any information on summer funding. Right now, the funding goes through the end of this school year. So if something were to change, we would certainly bring that to you. Good questions.
Other comments or questions? All right, thank you. So our next item up, last on our discussion, is our safety drill evaluations.
You all received copies of those safety drill evaluations that we did last month. Any questions on any of those?
Tina?
Tina.
I just had a question on them. I know it's like quite a thing to conduct these, and it's very disruptive and things like that, but I really appreciate the commitment to the safety, because we know how important that is, that muscle memory and things like that. So for in the event, hopefully that's something would happen. 2 questions that I have. I noticed the RMS document didn't have anyone that was assigned, that signed the person submitting the report. There wasn't a name attached with that one.
They Jason?
I didn't hear the question. but-
Am I picking on you?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
The RMS safety report didn't have anybody's name on it.
Oh, Mike Cunningham's.
Okay, yeah.
leading,
Okay, okay, I just
we let
wanted
the
to.
kids do it.
That is untrue. That is untrue. And they usually email the document, so I would imagine he sent the document but didn't sign, scan, send, which is the
Okay.
process that
Yep, 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 yep.
Mr. Whitaker will be revisiting and we'll make sure we have that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure we had that.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely. We should. Thank you.
The other question that I had was in the RMS one and then also in the Lincoln one. It just had, had said as far as like, okay, so for example, the Lincoln one, it just, said, okay, an area of growth, which I appreciate them spelling that out because I think it's important that we say, hey, this is an area of growth, or this was a challenge, or,
Absolutely.
the truth in this is important. So then with that part of it, what happens to carry through that area of growth to make sure that it's, corrected, or, and maybe other elementary school or other schools also had that? So how do you make that uniform to address that?
Great question. So we have a monthly meeting of the safety team, and we review these updates, and then we craft also the next safety drills. So we do review those, and then we also meet about the cabinet as need be. In fact, it's on our cabinet agenda tomorrow because we're planning for our May drill. So we'll reflect on all those pieces, and in our May drill, we'll actually have the Watertown Police Department will be joining us for that. So watching us and providing us some feedback there as well. So we work really hard to have reflection on those processes, to get feedback back to all the principals and the whole team, and also to the safety team, so we can continue our work moving forward. Thank you. Absolutely. Good, great questions.
Any questions on this? All right. And we will move on to our reports. Start off with the superintendent's report.
To build your anticipation. Superintendent's report. How are we doing, Tyler? Is it up there?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. So as is the tradition, our amazing WHS academic decathlon team placed first in Division I again. And I know I say this every year, but it is just a really tremendous accomplishment. It is first place in Division I, second place in the state, because Wilmot just will not give up that first place spot. But that is certainly the goal, to be first place in the state. But the broad range of opportunities we have available for our students is just second to none, that we can have a first place Division I academic decathlon team and all the other aspects we provide, from welding to culinary, to everything in between. It's just music, outstanding musical. It's just a great place to go to school and lots of great opportunities. Speaking of which, the Gosling Career Fair was terrific. I know I saw Paul there. We had a fantastic booth set up for the WUSD, trying to recruit our own educators. And that was outstanding, just absolutely fantastic to see. Kusel was there. We had representatives from all across the community, businesses, manufacturers, post-secondary schools. Every student went through it at the high school, and really, really great feedback from the business community, from the chamber, and from our students and teachers. So such a great event. And so I think I said to you last month, this was the last event we had in 2020 before COVID. And it was the first time we've had it back, and it was really, really nice to see. For anyone who doesn't know, we are currently enrolling 4K and 5K students. Enroll your 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. We are really excited about our numbers here. We are right now pacing 30 students above where we were at last year at this time for 5K, and 20 above in 4K at this time. So those are wildly impactful on those budget projections that you're seeing coming from Mr. Williamson. So really, really, really good news. In fact, as he was looking at those, I think he was changing some of those projections to perhaps a better news story. So really, really good news. Congratulations to our state qualifiers for the WHS Visual Arts Classic Team. Outstanding work to them. And in case you missed it or didn't have it on your calendar, it was National School Social Worker Week. So if you know a social worker, we got some of the best in the business. Be sure to congratulate them. They are recognized in March. Also recognized in March is Maintenance Worker Appreciation Day. Again, we have some of the best maintenance team in the business. We just really do. So say thank you to a maintenance worker as well. We celebrated Read Across America and Dr. Seuss at our elementary schools. Again, this all takes place in the month of March, and all of our schools have a variety of different activities that they do to celebrate over the course of that week. Greece, it was great. It was spectacular. It really was great. It just really was great. So huge kudos to Josh Kerr at the high school and all of the coordinating pieces to make that happen. Ryan Moldenhauer, obviously at the lead there, Sarah Hoffenstein in the orchestra pit, and just there's no one that competes with us in terms of the musicals. There's just not. It's spectacular. And in case you want a job, we are looking for substitutes. We are looking for support staffs. We are looking for paraprofessionals. Let us know. We are a fantastic place to work. Just ask anyone. And that brings me to the end of my superintendent's report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on that? All right. And we'll move on to our next committee report, which is policy review.
Okay. Meetings, Policy Review Committee met on March 9th. Committee members present, myself, Steve Caulfield, Doug Will, David Schrader. And thank you, Dave Smith, for your email, which you sent on Friday the 4th. I did print that out and provide copies for all board members. So you were represented as well. Other members, other participants were Cassandra and Jamie. So all the policies that are in the minutes are up for first reading. That's just a first reading. They will all then move forward for a second reading. But the key discussions concerned field trips, and we found out that there was a discrepancy between policies and practices. Cassandra brought to our attention that we have discovered that there was in practice for some events and field trips, the requirement to have a permission slip notarized. I think that we recognize that this was something historically when kids may have forged parents' signatures and there weren't cell phones on kids and numerous ways to know exactly where children were and what they were doing, that it was a wee bit outdated. So we did confirm that no notarized requirements, which were not in any board policies, we would clean that up in terms of practices. So we reviewed the extended field trips, field trip guides, guidelines for chaperone selection, field trip guidelines for chaperones on field trips and extracurricular activities, extended field trips. An extended field trip is a field trip that goes overnight. And also discusses some of the policies and practices for study abroad. So those are all up for first reading. We also have up for first reading the board committees and enhancing and taking that document and the descriptions of all of our committees and bringing it into 2022. Our discussion on board docs really was to bring forth the reminder that when we as a board adopted the board doc software, we felt that it would be important to create a policy on how we are using board docs. So that is the one discussion item because it isn't currently a policy that is not moving forward to first reading. Jamie was going to benchmark with board docs concerning other districts that may have created policies around the use of board docs in that software. And we will discuss that again in our June meeting. There was a variety of policies under minor revision, board member resignation, regular board meetings, special board meetings, closed sessions. And we had a good discussion on policy 8440, virtual board meetings. And the discussion really had to do with, we have a policy in place that was created very quickly when COVID hit, that needs refinement for long-term sustainability. And again, looking for that alignment between practices and what's in policy. And so that one will be coming back for further review and discussion. So that is the other board policy 8440, which is not on the docket tonight for first review. We're continuing to refine and edit that for further discussion. And I misspoke, our next policy committee meeting is in May, not June.
Comments or questions on the report? Tina?
Thank you very much for that thorough review. I did have a question regarding one of the chaperone. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think it's policy number 6320.
Okay.
The field trip guidelines for chaperones on field trips.
Okay.
So one of my questions is, it states that the chaperone enforces WUSD policies and procedures related to bullying and sexual harassment. And so I guess part of my question is, I agree, but I'm thinking about the times that I've been a chaperone and I don't know what those policies are. And I know
We
what's
talked
right and
about
what's
that,
wrong, but I don't know what, so really, I don't know that the chaperone's job is me. Okay.
Yeah,
to
no,
enforce
and the
that,
reason
but
why
the
I
teacher
smiled and laughed is I brought up with the auditor behind me. It's like, okay, it's saying they will be supporting all policies always forever. And I simply asked the question, so what is our orientation and training for chaperones?
Right.
Is it truly, is the wording accurate that it's basically a 3 to 5 year learning curve to understand what it means to be a chaperone? Excuse
Sign
me.
in
You can
blood.
do that. So what we did add to the
Yeah, go
policy
ahead.
was that every chaperone would receive a written copy of the expectations, which
Okay.
we thought would help to address exactly these issues.
Yeah. The scope.
Usually you do receive a written copy of what you need to do on the bus and whatnot when you are a chaperone.
Yeah.
However, we are going to institutionalize that practice to make sure that we are able to effectively implement that policy, because we have those same levels of concern. Yeah, and how long is the training for a chaperone right now? I think our elementary principal could say it's very, very short, so we could use a little more time.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted.
Which
to
that
make sure.
document is just a half page, 5 bullet points. This is
Right.
what you're doing today, right? This is not,
Correct.
here's a
It's
booklet.
not going to be a 7-hour training for the chaperones, something very simple. We have not yet gone back to develop that. I haven't even had the conversation because we met 2 weeks ago now, 1 week ago.
Yeah.
But
and-
we will be bringing that to cabinet and drafting that and making sure we're consistent.
Great thing to work on.
Yeah, and correspondingly, the policies need to be reviewed when there's these broad stroke,
Mhm.
process, but
Very good
keep our
question.
eye on it.
Okay.
Thank you for putting your eye on it, and bringing it up
Like,
tonight.
oh God, now what do I gotta do? All right, thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right, fiscal management and Doug's absence, Mike, will you please go through that? You can briefly go through the long list of items, spend the time where it's appropriate.
You got payment and variance reports were typical. Very little was brought up on each of those issues. We're trending right on with our budget in both revenues and expenditures. 10-year capital improvement plan you're seeing tonight as an action item. This is going to be detailed out more throughout our entire strategic plan period of those 3 years. But for right now, they cover some crucial projects that once if we approve, we'll be able to access some of the dollars that have been set aside for capital improvement plan, projects in Fund 46, which is about $2 million. You're going to see some of those projects later on, actually right now. Maintenance of parking lot bids. We collected bids from a strong, we got about 5 vendors who bid on this, which is a great output. We had the low bidder of Public Paving to cover several different schools. We did come with a bid for the ESC to do that as well. For right now, that is being taken off the list. There's some other homework to do on that. We'll come back to the gym floor next month at RMS. We did have a soft water system fail at RMS. We got 2 different bids in which to either fix the current system, which is supplying hot water to be soft. It caused some of our equipment to fail. And so we wanted to know whether we should outfit the entire middle school with soft water. That would cause the project to then go to the entire, to be approved at the board level. Again, we have some more homework to go back and do on that. District-wide vehicle inventory. We've got a couple vehicles coming to the board tonight. The list starts with vehicles from 1997. And so we're looking to replace some of those vehicles, and I'll have some prices for you during that period when we discuss that to look at. And then also a special ed vehicle as well, which is going to be funded through flow through due to the size of the REACH program. And that'll provide some flexibility with transportation that they do often. Elementary principals are willing to get rid of laser jets in order for larger and more cost-effective printers. So I'm ecstatic. So that has to go to the board because it's a total of $20,000. Typically, principals don't let go of laser jets and they just want more. So I was really pleased to have willing principals be like, yeah, we'll get rid of laser jets. Awesome. So that actually, while there's an upfront cost, obviously purchase these machines, ongoing yearly maintenance go and costs go down. We have a foundation grant that we'll cover in a second. Dr. Shug will take the lead on. We had some follow-up on the ad agency, and that's going to go back to ESC. And we gave some multi-year budget projections to the committee, and those will be continued to be discussed over the next several months and possibly come forward at some point for the entire board as well. Anything to add?
I'll just highlight the main thing we spent in terms of those multi-year projections was just seeing the capabilities of this analysis tool that Mike has put together that really allows us to look at the impacts of multiple areas of time. If your enrollment does this, but your local tax base does this, but state aid does this, and health expenditures do this, and how does that all sort out in the end? It was a great job putting that tool together. It's going to make our lives a lot easier to be able to look at what is a very complex financial projection situation. Otherwise, a number of these items will be on under resolutions this evening. Comments or questions before that? Okay. Then next up is human resources.
Human Resources met Monday, March 14th. Committee members present were myself, Jennifer Bakke, Tina Johnson, and Paul Vanden Langenberg. Margaret Brady led a lot of the discussion. The consent agenda was reviewed of staff appointments, resignations, and terminations, and appointments. That will be on the board's tonight's consent agenda. A copy of the proposed consent agenda was omitted from the committee agenda for this meeting, but it is included now. The committee also reviewed policy language, so that could be included this evening. And that will appear on 8140 of the resolution. The committee recommended forwarding the proposed language for inclusion this evening. Discussion of substitute bonus programs and current attendance. The committee discussed the current status of COVID-19 staff absences and the use of substitute staff bonus program for substitute employees working at least 5 days of assignments. The bonus program started in January of 2022 due to the high levels of staff absences. Since that time, the absences have significantly decreased. Given that decrease in staff absences, the committee recommends discontinuation of the substitute staff bonus program as of the 31st of this month. School perceptions annual employee satisfaction survey timeline was discussed. The committee reviewed the proposed timeline for the annual employee satisfaction survey administered through school perceptions. The committee recommended proceeding with the survey timeline. The committee requested a report on the outcome of this year's survey and longitudinal survey data to be provided when available. I believe this is the 4th year of that, and should provide some interesting data. We hope. So with that, we concluded the HR meeting. Our next meeting will be April 18th.
Comments or questions on that?
Question on the consent agenda. If there's a staff appointment between the committee and the board, does it change, or does it have to clear the committee and then?
No.
But no which?
No, it does not have to go through the committee. So the final version as presented to the board is one to take an action on. Again, the HR committee step is strictly a committee review. It's not an approval. And there will be times in which it's still in flux. And so that's just what has to happen. All right. Educational services.
And services met on March 8th at 7:30 morning. Committee members, Paul Vanden Langenberg, Tina Johnson, David Schrader, and David Smith were all in attendance. We had 3 things on the agenda. The first thing was the Watertown safety plan update, which was more current tonight, so we'll go over that. The second thing was Kayla went, Sure's principal gave a AGR semi-annual report. AGR is an achievement gap recovery program that is over there. A couple of things that are required for that program to operate is that it requires participating schools to create performance objectives with the hopes of reducing achievement gaps. The program also requires review of implementation and progress towards achieving performance objectives in each participating school. Kayla shared the progress toward the AGR math and literacy goals for grades K through 3 for the 21-22 school year. The third item on the agenda was literacy adoption presentation, which was very well done, very concise. Anyway, we heard an update on that as well today, which will be a resolution, so I won't be redundant on that. So the meeting adjourned at 9:27. Next meeting is April 12th, 7:30 at the ESC.
Comments or questions on that report? All right, hearing none. Then this brings us to the consent agenda, resolution 9086. The consent agenda includes board meeting minutes, committee summaries, personnel staffing, that is resignations, retirements, and appointments, approval of bills, and the first and second reading of policies. There are a number of policies as described in the policy committee report that are up for first reading. There are no policies up for second reading this evening. A full copy of the consent agenda is available upon request at the board office. Do I hear a motion on resolution 9086?
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Paul, seconded by Dave. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tina Burnett,
Yes.
Jennifer Bucky,
Yes.
Tina Johnson. Yes. Steve Caulfield,
Yes.
Dave Smith,
Yes.
Paul Vanden Langenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. This moves us to our action items. We do have a number of resolutions for this evening. The first of which is the adoption of the program we've heard about for RMS for literacy. It's resolution 9087. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Tina, seconded by Paul. Comments or questions on the motion? And I'll just reiterate my thanks, as the superintendent mentioned, to everyone who put in time for the last year going through this extensive analysis. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All right, roll call vote, please. Yes.
Jennifer Bakke,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Cropper,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Paul Van Langrenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9088. This is a grant. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Dave. Please. Sorry, this is Steve. Sorry.
Put my name down on the
Yep.
title.
Well, thanks.
It's over there.
So just briefly to speak to this, so this is a grant that was literally just offered for us out of thin air, came to us, people just offering us money to support what we're already doing and support our existing mental health programming. And although it says a quote unquote challenge grant, there is no attachment here that does not require matching funds in order for us to receive it. But we will go through an effort of trying to raise matching funds as a part of this effort.
Correct. And there were only 4 districts that were given this pilot: Appleton, Racine, Sun Prairie, and Waterton.
And they did come to us because
What we've done.
they had heard of the good work we've done with the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation. So they did seek us out. We were
Blindsided.
surprised, but I do want to make sure that it is noted that they knew we'd done some really good work in this area. And yeah, again, 1 of 4, so fantastic.
All right. Any other comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Tony Evans,
Yes.
Jennifer Bakke,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Cropper,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Paul Van Langrenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9089. This is the 10-year capital improvement plan. Do I hear a motion?
Move.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Tina. Again, I'll emphasize, this is a living document. It's important that we get one on the books. It allows us to begin to make expenditures covered by Fund 46. We've been tucking money away into over the last 3 to 5 years where we could. I'm excited because that's Doug Lindsay and I put that together so long ago. So to finally see the plan go together allows us to get that out there. But again, we'll emphasize it's a living document. You're going to continue to see this come back to the board over time for adjustments. Any other comments or questions on the motion? All right. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Evans,
Yes.
Jennifer Bakke,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Cropper,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Paul Van Langrenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is resolution 9090, parking lot maintenance. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Tina. As alluded to in the Finance Committee fiscal management report, this is a number of paving projects, the largest of which is a section of the parking lot here at the high school. We did get very competitive bidding. Frankly, I was surprised at. I think if we go with this 6 months later, you find very different pricing. So I think we're doing well to lock this in right now. And again, our intention is to use a Fund 46 funds to pay for this. So it's accumulated out of that balance in that fund. All right, comments or questions on the motion?
When would that Fund 46 decision be made or not made?
Typically, you can do that really through the audit period. It wouldn't have to go to board.
Oh, it doesn't, okay.
No, it doesn't have to go to board. Do it through the audit period to see maybe there are funds and operations and we leave Fund 46 alone.
Yeah, we'll wait and see how the year bounces out.
But it's not a board action per se.
No, it's not. All right, any other comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Tony Evans,
Yes.
Jennifer Bakke,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Coffin,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Paul Van Langenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next is 9091, vehicle purchases. Do I hear a motion? By Tina,
Second.
second by Steve. And as was briefly mentioned, we have put together for really the first time my board time on the board, a comprehensive list of the vehicles owned by the district, looking at their age and condition and looking ahead to point of, can we get to a cadence of we're replacing a few vehicles at the right kinds of time to take care of this and build it into our budgeting. So you don't hit it as a surprise, oh, 1 year we've got to suddenly replace 10 vehicles.
So I'd add a couple things. We did get some, so there are no more, there are no 2022 vehicles of any of these.
No.
So they're all 2023. Those contracts, state contracts open up sometime early April. They are taking in, as an estimate right now, we're taking 2022 prices and adding 10%. I think a year ago, we would have been like, that's impossible. And now we're like, yeah, that sounds about right. So at 10%, a transit van for the maintenance side, we're looking at a vehicle around 35,000, which is actually what is budgeted in the capital improvement plan. The F-350 is the other vehicle of need right now. And that, because it comes with some additional, pickup capacity and things like that, is around 41. So the maintenance, we're looking at a $75,000 replacement of those two vehicles. And then on the special education side, which uses our flow-through funds and doesn't touch the operational budget at all, which is good. Again, a 2023 model estimating out at about 32.5. We do have a need for a Ranger. We had talked about Ford Ranger. We had talked about doing some analysis based on what it would cost to outsource our snowplow needs. It is the only 2022 vehicle left. It's at the current price is 26. Just wanted to put that out there as maybe we'll come back and visit that in this next month if it's still around. But 75,000 out of operation, 32 out of flow through. They weren't even give me a lead time. Hopefully we'll have it before the next biennial. I'm thinking 6 months. But I don't know. He wouldn't give me a lead time until until we actually probably put an order in, which this allows us to do literally the day in which that pricing opens up.
So again, we'll be going through the state program for these. So the price has already been negotiated at a state level. Multiple vendors can still bid on providing that. We'll likely end up with Greenwald. It really doesn't make a difference. I've been frankly buying vehicles like this and go back to the city for 20 years. And until you get to a point of talking about dump trucks or really kind of specialized vehicles, going the state program is just the best price you're going to find around. There is no point in us trying to go out ourselves and try and find something better. It's not going to. So, other comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Tony Bennett,
Yes.
Jennifer Backey,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Coffin,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
Paul Van Langenberg.
Yes.
And the motion carries. And our last resolution is 9092, copy machine purchases. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Paul. And as was mentioned, we're actually doing here is eliminating more units than replacement, right? We're replacing, getting rid of a number of laser jets, replacing them with far fewer number of copy machines. So the actual cost per copy that we're talking about goes down. Please do.
Okay, do we typically, do you get bids for this, just like you get bids for everything else, or do we have like a contract? for that?
So our entire copy fleet, whatever inventory, which is about 80 copiers across the district, is all through Gordon Flesh. To change, at this point, to change and have some printers on one system and some with another vendor on another system, and it is different. It is just costly to do from a time perspective. And so I feel like the decision has been made long ago that Gordon Flesh is the provider. And we just work with them then on what our particular needs are to make sure that we get the printer that's at the lowest cost that'll meet our needs.
It is a good question. I mean, I've been through this. You can go out and bid and you
Yeah,
will have
okay.
them come in and basically buy your contracts. Your existing ones, maybe just something for us to look at in the future, comprehensive, and just, or at least just ask prices, at least use a nice comparison point, and then if somebody comes in with a, like, okay, well, I need to meet this. So, I have a question.
Yeah,
And
we're,
there's-
and we
and
don't
there's two
have,
about- There's two components to it. The purchase of the copier, which is technically the motion, and it's the ongoing per page count of black and white or colors that you're paying.
It's the maintenance contract.
So it's probably asking you, like,
I can remember it maybe like 5+ years ago. I think we did
I
actually
remember
ask this
that.
question. Yeah, I think we did actually
We
ask this
did.
question in the last or next to last year of Lindsay's time.
but 5+ years is probably worth looking at again to make sure at least we're.
Any other comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Tony Bennett,
Yes?
Jennifer Buckley,
Yes.
Tina Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Coffin,
Yes.
David Smith.
Yes.
Paul Bear.
And the motion carries. This brings us to the second part of the agenda for public input. If there are members of the audience who'd like to be recognized at this time, anybody online like to be recognized at this time, just use the raise your hand feature. I'm not seeing anyone. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Jennifer, seconded by Tina. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you.